Hello and welcome to the paid weekly recap for the week ending November 7th, 2025. I am Keith Harwood, here, CIO of Yellow Tunnel, and also pictured is Vlad Karpel, the CEO and founder of Yellow Tunnel and the creator of the artificial intelligence behind the paid system. Before we get started, normal disclosures. Options involve substantial risk and are not suitable for all investors. Yellow Tunnel and myself are not investment advisors and not registered with the SEC nor FINRA. If you do have questions about your own personal financial situation, please consult with a registered financial advisor. The information in this presentation is for education and information purposes only and should not be considered trade advice. And finally, myself and/or the team at Yellow Tunnel may have a financial interest in the securities presented and the trade ideas, so please keep that in mind. If you need any further time with the disclosures, please go ahead and pause the video now. Otherwise, we will get into the recap for this past week. So the 10-year yield started to rise on Wednesday and faded back and basically closed the week around unchanged. Nothing exciting happening here. We still have some missing data due to the government shutdown. We didn't get non-farm payrolls on Friday, so we're kind of trading, investing a little bit in the dark, or at least in a very muddied amount of information because we just don't have that full fundamental information that we would normally be getting. And now, along with that, we did have the market start to pull back this week. Really started last week as we started getting into this concern over AI valuations, tech valuations. Palantir had earnings that started pulling down the market, and then further valuations and questions about AI started making the market pull back a little bit further. But by Friday, there started to be rumors of a government shutdown resolution, and that pulled the market back up as it started to look more and more like a falling knife scenario, breaking the 50-day moving average and starting to create some real concern and panic for this market. By the end of the day, closed in the positive, and started showing some signs of bottoming. Now, it's not clear yet. It was still a lower high and a lower low, but we are getting increased signs of a market bottoming action here on this about week and a half long dip after making a new all-time high. As we go to the NASDAQ, very similar, did not get above Thursday's closing price, so ended up slightly negative on the day. Dipped below the 50-day moving average, much like the S&P 500, but firmed significantly into the afternoon. Now, we still don't have a government shutdown resolution, but that is in process still, and maybe some thoughts that there's a potential for compromise may get this market going. And if the lack of deal, in spite of potential for compromise, continues, then it may create more concern for this market on top of the AI valuation concerns. And then finally, small caps. Small caps have been, recently a bit more of a consistent trend to the upside, but then in the last week and a half, that did pull down below the 50-day moving average, closing below on both Tuesday and Thursday, and closing below again on Friday. Again, closed in the green on Friday, slightly up on the day, showing some bottoming action, but did breach some support levels and looks relatively weak. And the VIX spiked on Friday as the market looked like it was going to go into falling knife mode. But again, because of the end of the day rally, VIX came off and ended up closing lower on Friday than Thursday's close, kind of back in line with the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday higher end of that range, not the spike range. We didn't get up to 30 this time yet. Maybe that happens this week if we get a bigger pullback. But a lot of the concerns started to come out of this market on Friday. It's still there. Above 20 is a really concerning level. That starts to show some more of that falling knife panicking type behavior. And we got a little bit out on Friday, but again, because of the market bounce back, a lot of that panic started to reduce, and the market's now looking at that potential for bottoming action and then buying the dip. Now, for this week, we had one trade, and it was in Bank of America. And Bank of America looked like it was going to break out on Tuesday. Started a little bit lower, pushed to a new high. And then they had an investor day that caused some concern and pulled back down to the 20-day moving average. Bounced into Thursday. Friday actually remained relatively stable, a small dip followed by a small recovery. But at the end of the day this week, it was a very flat week. And the implied volatility in Bank of America actually fell significantly. So through that process, from the entry on Tuesday's open until the close on Friday, the stock was up about 0.3%, effectively flat. The implied volatility in Bank of America options fell by about 3.5%, from 27.5% to 24%. This is actually a 21% loss. My apologies. So the implied volatility falling by 3.5% means that the vega of these options really reduced the value. And thus the options decayed in value by about 22%, 21, 22%, in spite of a flat market. From 27.5 to 24 is a significant fall for options within like a Bank of America type stock. And with options expiring in about 45 days from the entry point, that was enough to turn this into a loss in spite of the market being up small. We needed to see a bigger rally in Bank of America or a continued elevation of the implied volatility like we were seeing Friday morning on a more global perspective. But alas, we still had that. We did have another positive week, I think, overall for the live trading room. So looking at some opportunities to take profits early in the week and deploy potentially new capital here near the end of the week or into the beginning of next week. Some different timing on some things allowed for continued good performance in the trading room. So I do urge you again to join us Monday mornings weekday mornings from about 9:15 till 10:15, 10:30 Eastern, and on the closing bell from 3 to 4. You can always ask questions, see how Vlad and I are looking at things from an AI perspective, an options perspective, and a technical perspective. As always, keep an eye out for your inbox. We're looking at two, maybe even three trades this week. So in spite of that market behavior and the chop, that Friday recovery did set up a couple of new trades for this week. We'll keep an eye on it and decide, make an ultimate decision on the number, or rules-based decision on Monday night, Tuesday morning for the potential entries here. And if you have any questions, you can always email us. I'm Keith at yellowtunnel.com and Vlad is Vlad at yellowtunnel.com. Thanks again, everybody. We hope you had a wonderful weekend and look forward to another exciting week in this market.